So what we're going to do next is we've installed the rest. I've got it pretty close to lined out, but we need to find an approximate center shot for this bow. So what I do to find that is I'll take my tape measure. I'll obviously measure axle to axle, and your center shot's usually going to be right in the middle. So this one's 32 inches axle to axle, so my center shot's going to be somewhere around 16 inches. And indeed it is somewhere around 16 inches. So what I'll do is I'll actually knock a little higher than that, and I'll place my arrow to where the bottom of the arrow shaft, if you're holding the bow up, the bottom of the arrow shaft is right on that 16-inch line mark. Not splitting it, but on the top of it. And once I get that lined out, what I do, if I've got one here, I do. Yes, I do. I'll take a Sharpie, which probably lost my center shot again, but I will much better. So I will take a Sharpie and I'll mark the string. This is going to be useful for a couple of purposes, but I take a dark Sharpie, that way it doesn't really stand out and I can still see the marks. And there we go. So now I can remove that arrow, and what I'm going to do now is I will tie, as you can see here, I've got some serving. I will tie serving on the two marks that I made. And I'll just tie a real simple knot. It's hard to explain the knot, but I'll basically just take a loop, two ends of the string, wrap it around the string like such, and then pull the two loose ends through the loop and onto the string. And at that point, what that does is actually eliminates the D-loop. When you draw, your D-loop actually crimps down on your nock, so it can create some arrow flight issues as well. And by tying these two pieces of serving here, one on the top of the nock, one on the bottom of the nock, it eliminates the amount of pressure, top and bottom, or the amount of clamp that that D-loop actually puts on the nock. So you actually get a little bit better arrow flight. As well, if you ever want to cut your D-loop off, you still have those pieces of serving there for your center shot, so you maintain your center shot. You don't lose that. The only time you would lose that is if you change strings. So that's that. I'll do that. I'll get the D-loop tied on. We'll do a video later about how to tie on a D-loop, but I'll get the D-loop tied on. Then once we do that, we can get the left and right of the arrow rest and the up and down of the actual rest set up. We got the nocking point. That's how I find my nocking point. Remember, I go axle to axle. I'll find the very midpoint of that axle to axle after installing rest, and I will set that arrow just a little high to the center. So, like, again, this is a 32-inch axle to axle bow. I will set that arrow at the bottom, where the bottom of the arrow is just touching the 16-inch line. Okay, and so there's my center shot, and it'll be actually a little knock high. I usually shoot 1/8 of an inch knock high anyway. That's, you get better arrow flight that way. You get it's a matter of debate, but I believe you get better arrow flight that way. As well, it's easier to tune your sight in, most sights in. Alright, so you can't see my face, but I know you can see my hands. What we're going to do now is we're actually going to find the center shot of the bow and the nocking point. This bow, if you'll remember, is 32 inches axle to axle, so the first thing I do to find the center shot so that I can get a nocking point, I've just installed my rest. Very simple process. You can see the Haase style rest right here. Kind of hard to tell, but I want the focus on the string down here by this level. What I will do is I will take my tape measure and I will measure from axle to axle, and then I will take a little short arrow that I've cut off just for this purpose, and I will attach it to the string, set it over the cables, that way it's got some support. Okay, and I want that arrow to be right on the 16-inch line. Okay, which it is. You just have to trust me, it's hard to tell. Okay, and at that point, what I will do is I will actually put the arrow on the 16. I will actually put the arrow splitting a 1/4 inch high. So it was on the 16-inch line. We're going to move it just a hair up to split the 16 and a 1/4 inch line, if that makes any sense. The reason I do that is because I shoot knock high. And after I get that done, what I'll do, and I've already done this on this bow, but I will take a Sharpie and I will make a mark on the string above the knock and below the knock. Okay. The reason I do that is because, in particular, I'm going to tie a piece of serving to the string where my knocking point is, and that serves two purposes. What it does is it will allow me to maintain center shot if I ever want to change D-loops. D-loops stretch, they wear out, they break down. So I will always have these two pieces of serving on the string so that I maintain my center shot. Alright? And it also reduces the amount of crimp down that your D-loop puts on your arrow nock. So it actually alleviates some of that pressure. If you've never heard of something called an AccuNock, you need to check them out. They're on eBay, smaller company, but they make a knock that is actually friction free upon release. It actually crimps down on the string, but then as pressure is applied forward, then the crimp loosens up and the arrow is allowed to let go free. So between this, tying the serving on the string, and the AccuNocks, you can really get some good arrow flight. And so I'll show you real quickly just this very simple knot that I do for tying the serving onto the string. What I will do is I'll just make a loop out of your string. I'll put it over either the top or the bottom, but I'll come up on either side of the string. You can kind of see left hand, right hand. Okay, and then I'll put the two loose pieces of string through that loop. Okay, and then I'll tighten it down, close it up, and that is that. If you want to, you can always do another loop where you just basically make another loop and bring the two more loose pieces of string up through the loop you've made on the other side of the string. Alright, so you basically just going to wrap it down, wrap it around the string one more time, come up through the loop you've made, and tighten it down. I usually make two just to make it a little bit more sturdy, and I'll make sure I place it right over that line that I have made on my knocking point. At that point, you're just going to cut the tag ends off, heat them up with a lighter, melt them, and you have your one knocking point there. And then you do the bottom the same way. So thanks for watching, and be sure to check out the next video. I believe what we're going to do next is we're going to get our rest tuned in, our arrow leveled, and we're going to start just shooting this bow, making sure it's in tune. After that, we'll get a sight put on, and we'll show you how to sight your bow in, walk back, tune it, make sure your arrow rests, get the final touches on, and things of that nature. So thanks for watching, and have a great day.